The evening air outside the large auditorium carried a mix of warm city lights and the soft hum of distant traffic. People moved slowly toward the entrance, chatting and laughing as they waited for the next round of auditions to begin. Inside, bright studio lights washed the stage in a clean glow, making every detail shine, from the polished floor to the soft, velvet curtains that framed the performance area. It was the kind of place where dreams felt close, as if they were waiting just behind the lights, ready to step forward if someone was brave enough to reach for them. Behind the stage, a young Filipino man named Awais Sab stood quietly, gently adjusting the small rhinestone pin on his shirt collar. It wasn't a real Elvis pin, just a simple one he found at a small shop in Manila, but it meant something to him. It reminded him of all the times he had listened to Elvis songs as a child, sitting on a wooden stool in the corner of his grandmother's house. The old radio there crackled every time he turned the dial, but whenever an Elvis song played, the world seemed to soften. Those warm, echoing melodies wrapped around him like comfort, like a voice reminding him that music could make even heavy days feel lighter. Now he stood alone in a hallway far from home, taking slow breaths to calm himself. He had traveled so far for this one moment. The United States felt huge, bright, and loud compared to the quiet neighborhoods he was used to, but he kept telling himself he belonged here, even if a small part of him still doubted it. A stage assistant waved at him gently. "Awais, you're up next. Just breathe, okay? You'll be great." He nodded politely, trying to smile, though his hands trembled just a little. He had never performed on television before. He had never stepped onto a stage this large. Even more frightening was the thought of the millions of people who could eventually watch the performance online. He wasn't used to crowds like that. He wasn't used to being seen. He closed his eyes for a moment. He imagined his grandmother's voice, soft and warm, telling him not to rush, not to be afraid. "Just sing with your heart," she used to say. "People feel what is true." When he opened his eyes again, he felt a little steadier. The hallway grew brighter as he moved forward. The lights of the stage spilled into the wings like sunlight. He heard the audience murmuring, settling in their seats. He heard one of the judges clearing his throat. And somewhere above all the noise, he heard the faint whisper of music playing softly through the speakers as they reset the stage. The assistant touched the small headset in her ear. "Whenever you're ready." The curtains parted slightly, and Awais stepped out. The audience saw him move slowly toward the center of the stage. He looked calm on the outside, though inside he felt like his heartbeat echoed louder than the crowd. The judges glanced at him with polite curiosity. A camera glided across the floor, capturing his every step. Simon Cowell leaned forward, not saying anything yet. The air felt still. A gentle voice from the panel asked, "Hello there. What's your name?" "My name is Awais Sab," he said softly, his voice steady but quiet. "And where are you from?" Another judge asked. "I'm from the Philippines." There was a soft wave of applause from the audience. Some people smiled warmly, others gave encouraging nods. Awais felt gratitude rise in his chest. "And what will you be singing for us today?" someone asked. He straightened just a little, feeling the weight of the moment rest on his shoulders. "I will sing an Elvis Presley classic," he said, letting the words settle gently into the space between him and the judges. There was a brief flicker of interest across the panel. Simon's eyebrows lifted slightly, as if he had heard many Elvis attempts before and wasn't sure what to expect from this one. "Well," Simon said, folding his hands. "Whenever you're ready." The music faded in softly, a gentle guitar, warm and nostalgic, carrying the familiar rhythm of an Elvis ballad. Awais stood still, breathing slowly, letting the first few chords surround him like a soft wave. Then he began to sing. At first, his voice was soft, smooth like velvet, flowing out into the auditorium with an ease that surprised even him. The sound carried a warm echo, not forced, not pushed, just honest and full. As he moved from the first lines into the heart of the song, his tone deepened. The audience leaned in as his voice revealed a rich, soulful quality that didn't feel like imitation. It felt like respect, like a bridge between time and memory. People stopped whispering. They stopped blinking. It felt as though the entire room held its breath. Somewhere halfway through the song, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was gentle, a small twist. Awais didn't just sing like Elvis. He didn't just echo the old familiar style. He brought something new, something tender. He added a softness that felt almost fragile, like he was sharing a quiet piece of his own story hidden within every note. It wasn't just a performance. It was a confession. Simon sat still at first, studying him with sharp eyes. But as the song continued, Simon's expression softened. His usual guarded look faded into something more open, almost emotional. The other judges exchanged glances of surprise, as if they couldn't quite believe the voice coming from the young man on stage. The audience swayed gently. A few people placed their hands over their hearts. Someone whispered, "Oh my goodness," another whispered, "He sounds like, but also not like anyone else." Alwise closed his eyes briefly as he reached one of the final lines. The melody floated with a kind of longing, gentle, aching, hopeful. His voice rose, then softened like a wave rolling back into the ocean. As he held the last note, the auditorium remained completely silent for a moment. It was a silence full of emotion, the kind that happens when everyone feels something at the same time. Then the room erupted. The applause was loud, powerful, rising from every corner of the building. People stood. They cheered. Some clapped with their hands over their heads. Others simply stared at him with awe, shaking their heads as if still trying to understand what they had just heard. Alwise lowered the microphone slowly, his chest rising and falling gently. He didn't know what to do with his hands. He didn't know whether to smile or stay still. His heart felt warm, almost too warm, as if someone had opened a window inside him and sunlight was pouring in. One of the judges spoke first. I didn't expect that," she said, placing a hand on her chest. "Your voice is so pure. It's not just Elvis. It's you. And what you did just now felt beautiful." Another judge nodded enthusiastically. It felt like listening to the past and the present all at once. The audience cheered again. Simon finally cleared his throat. "Alwise," he said slowly, "I've heard many people try to sing Elvis. Many." He paused as the audience murmured in agreement. "But very few make me forget I'm listening to a performance." He leaned forward. "You made me feel like I was hearing a new voice entirely. Something honest. Something real." Alwise felt his knees weaken, just a little. Simon continued, "And that is what makes someone unforgettable." The room roared with applause again, louder than before. In that moment, Alwise felt something shift inside him. It wasn't pride. It wasn't shock. It was something quieter, a peaceful, gentle warmth that filled him from the inside, like the kind of relief that comes after a long, difficult journey. As the judges delivered their votes, each one gave him a yes without hesitation. The crowd cheered. The lights glowed brighter. The cameras zoomed in. And yet, even with all the noise, Alwise felt strangely calm. Like he finally understood something about himself that he had overlooked for years. He was enough. His voice was enough. When he walked backstage again, the world felt lighter. The hallway no longer felt intimidating. The stage assistant clapped her hands excitedly. "You did it. Oh my gosh, you really did it." Alwise laughed softly, the sound gentle and a bit shaky. "Thank you," he said, running a hand through his hair. His phone buzzed repeatedly in his pocket. Messages from friends back home. Notifications. Social media alerts. After only a few minutes, videos of his audition had already begun to spread online. People were calling him the Filipino Elvis. People were calling him the voice that broke the internet. But to him, none of that mattered as much as the fact that he had stood on that stage and shared something true. Something that belonged to him. He stepped outside the building for a moment, needing a breath of fresh air. The night sky looked calm. Cool air brushed against his cheeks. The city buzzed quietly in the background, but it didn't feel overwhelming anymore. It felt alive in a way that made sense. He sat on a low bench near a small patch of grass, listening to the distant traffic and the muffled sounds of the show continuing inside. He watched a few people walk past, laughing softly about his performance. One pointed at their phone screen, showing the clip of him singing that had already begun to circulate online. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He took a slow, deep breath and let it out gently, feeling the weight of the evening settle into something warm and steady. The world suddenly seemed full of possibilities, not loud or dramatic ones, but quiet ones. Steady ones. The kind he could take one small step at a time. For the first time in a long while, he believed that his voice could carry him somewhere meaningful. And no matter what happened next, No matter how many views the video got or how many people shared his story, he knew he would hold on to the part that mattered most. He had sung with his heart. He had been himself. And that was enough.